welcome to this special release of the Untold Story podcast. Earlier, I sat down with New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Here's the full interview. Mr. Mayor, Eric Adams, thank you very much for sitting down with us today. There's a lot going on, and we want to hit on a number of different topics with you. More drone sightings. Yes. There were videos of people who believe that that's what they saw over the Brooklyn Bridge last night. Federal government not saying a whole lot about this. Do you think there's a threat here?
I spoke with Police Commissioner Tisch and the leadership of the New York City Police Department, and I told them I want Rebecca Weiner, our Deputy Commissioner of Intelligence, to meet with all of the law enforcement agencies in the area, Long Island, New Jersey, and we want to sit down and make sure there's not a threat. And I called Governor Murphy as well and asked, could the state police be involved? And he said he wholeheartedly agree. Our preliminary assessment in New York City, they're recreational drones. It almost has become a sort of a copycat. Everybody's hearing about drones. They say, wait a minute, I got a drone in my basement. Now it's up in the sky. But we want to be sure that there's not a threat or a potential of someone utilizing it as a threat.
So the other day you spoke out about the murder of Brian Thompson, the UnitedHealthcare CEO, and the suspect, Luigi Mangione, and you said, our children are being radicalized to hate America. You said, I get pushback when I say this, but you said that that's what you believe. Why? Yes,
and think about it, not only the assassination, the intentional assassination of Brian, but also look what happened on our school grounds. You had a young girl that went in and took the life of innocent people. One would state that when you look at the polls that 40% of 30-year-olds or younger think the shooting was justified. When you look at what's happening on social media, and that is the real problem, because young people we've always pushed back when we were youthful on government. But with social media and the proliferation of hate, of anger, of suicide rates, increased ideation, suicide ideations, increase in depression, there's something that's happening below the surface with our young people. They're medicated all the time. My teachers tell me, Eric, the children are high all the time. And if we don't take a serious look at it, it is lurking in our basements, our bathrooms, in their bedrooms. If we don't take a look at it and have a real approach to it, we're going to be in trouble.
Do you think the legalization of marijuana was a mistake?
And I said this during the debate, and I was booed during the debate when I talked about you can't just legalize marijuana and not have some form of understanding of it. And, you know, the smell of marijuana, the continuous use of it, we've normalized it as though it doesn't impact your ability to move. You should not be high sitting inside a classroom. It's hard enough knowing 1 and 1 equals 2 than, you know, having a joint before you go in, for God's sake. So I think that we didn't do it properly to make sure the safeguards in place. We closed down 1,300 illegal cannabis shops in the city, but there's still a market that's available, and our young people should not.
Could you roll back legalization if you got another term?
It was actually done on the state level. It wasn't done on the city level. I would have put some real guardrails in place where you could smoke, how getting access to it, and continue to make it easy to close down these shops.
So let me ask you a big picture question. Yes. We had a big election, obviously, in November of 2024. There's a lot of prominent Democrats who are speaking out of what they're referring to as a real wake-up call for your party. Let's watch some of these voices, and then I want to get your reaction, Mayor.
Donald Trump is not an idiot. You know how I know? Because he has the White House, the Senate, the House.
Totally agree.
Court, the popular vote.
Democrats, you lost. You got your butts whipped. Own it, live with it, accept it.
I don't even know what the Democratic Party is at this particular moment. They don't seem to have a real sense of direction at this point.
So Trump won by 11 points in the Bronx and in Queens. He cut in half Biden's lead in New York. What do you say to what these individuals are saying? Do you agree with them?
Wholeheartedly. That we stopped speaking to people, we started speaking at people. I think I like to say it's a cryptocurrency moment. You know, when I first started, said I was going to invest in cryptocurrency, people laughed at me. Who's laughing now? When I first got elected in 2022, I told the party it's public safety. People are tired of the revolving door where people are constantly committing violent crimes and back on our streets. We ignored it. I talked about the affordability issue. I talked about the migrants and asylum seeker issue. I mean, Iowa caucus showed that is one of the top issues. Not hearing the people and you engaging in dialogue while individuals are fearful of affordability, losing their home, the future of their children, and you having these intellectual conversations, and people are like saying, what the hell are you talking about? I'm hurting, and you're asking, is Donald Trump Hitler or not? It's just not talking to the real needs of people.
So you have been strong on those issues. I look back at the things that you were saying over the years. Obviously, you spent decades as a New York City police officer, but when you came into office, you were asked on ABC if you were concerned that being a sanctuary city was going to create a magnet to New York. And here's what you said.
Not at all. This city has always been a sanctuary city, and we've always managed those who wanted to come to New York City to pursue the American dream.
But now, you know, people see Tren de Aragua in Times Square. They see gang members and criminals who are getting arrested and getting released, put back out on the street. $6.6 billion on migrants in New York City. People complain that the city is dirty. What do you say to those who say that your turn on this, and you're sitting down with Tom Homan last week and talking about making us safer New York, came too late?
Well, and this is why this is so important, to be able to not have a bumper sticker understanding of a policy and a person's belief, but engaging in real conversations, which we don't do that much often anymore. Sanctuary city is totally different from a man-made crisis that we saw. This is what sanctuary city states. If you're in this city and you are paying taxes, you buy a loaf of bread, you pay taxes, those are your tax dollars. You have a right to the services of the city. You have a right to the police officers. You should not be fearful to put your children in school and get health care. That's what a sanctuary city is. What a sanctuary city is not is having an unsecure border and allowing gang members to come in, paroling people into the country where you're telling them you can't work for 6 months or a year and you have to be dependent on the local cities to take care of you. We're saying that as a sanctuary city, if you're here and you are participating legally, you are provided the services as you start your pathway to get citizenship or legal status. That has always been what took place in this city, but it is not a safe haven for those who are committing criminal acts or trying to harm migrants, asylum seekers, and other New Yorkers.
Well, you see what Tren de Aragua is doing in Aurora, Colorado, torturing 15 people, taking over at least a couple of apartment buildings there. You know, what do you say to the people of your city who feel like this is out of control? You've got 11% of the Manhattan hotel rooms are occupied right now by migrants, and a lot of people out there, despite what you say about the situation, think that you let it go too far. And
listen, they were angry, and many of them were angry because they didn't understand. They said, Eric, what are you doing? Why are you allowing these buses to come in? Hey, I can't stop them from coming in. That's against federal law. Well, why don't you let them work like all immigrants have done and found their way? Federal government told me, Eric, you can't allow them to work. You know what, Eric? You can't even allow them to volunteer to clean the streets, remove graffiti, and give them a stipend. That's against federal law. And then I have city law that told me there's a right to shelter law. Anyone that comes in this city, anywhere on the globe, can come here and get shelter for as long as they want. I had to go to court and fight that and give a 30 and 60-day notification. That's how we dropped 220,000 that came here to now 50,000, because we said you only going to stay in our shelter for 30 days. And we were fought on that. And so, yes, people were angry. They saw the headlines, look what our mayor is doing, but in reality, the mayor was handcuffed. So what I had to do was make sure my police protected those who were the victims of these crimes, and made sure that I had to follow the housing laws that were in place, but while we fought them in court.
So you have butted heads with your city council a lot on the things that you wanted to change. Their chamber is right down the hall here. You must run into each other all the time in these halls. Other mayors are taking a different tack. Brandon Johnson in Chicago and the mayor of Boston saying, we will not bend or break to the Trump mass deportation rule. This is what people in the city council meeting, these are residents in Chicago. Here's what they're saying about their mayor's stance on this. Watch this.
You caused all this money to go to illegal immigrants. We want a forensic audit of the money that was spent on illegal immigration.
Can you do the job, Mr. Brandon Johnson? And it's looking like you can't do the job. We need to start voting different in these cities like New York and Chicago.
So that last voice, we have to start voting differently in these cities like New York and Chicago. Do you see a movement happening in cities when you look at what happened in the election? And are these voices going to change these blue cities potentially into red ones?
That's a good question. And that's why I believe that the Democratic Party must ensure that they're listening to the voices of the people. The American people, they spoke loudly and clearly, and they stated that we have to secure our borders, we have to deal with the immigration crisis, and we have to address those violent individuals who come to this country. It's a privilege and a right to be in America, and if you violate that, you should not be in this country. That number of people, which I believe is a small number, committing those violent acts, like the gangs that we've mentioned, should not be here.
So let's talk about the gangs. Let's talk about what you agreed to with Tom Homan. Violent criminals will be deported under the Trump mass deportation. What constitutes a violent criminal? Is that someone who is accused, someone who has been convicted, someone who wears gang tattoos? You know, where do you draw the line? Did you make that line with him?
No, we did not. I thought our conversation was a great conversation. Tom and I both sat down, and we both agree on violent individuals should not remain in our country. We have laws here in the city on how that could be handled. My legal team is going to sit down with his legal team to make the determination if an executive order can change that. One of the things he would like to have is that's access to Rikers Island. That's the jail in our city. The law that was passed under the previous administration said that no ICE officer can be in any governmental building. There are exceptions to that. We're looking at those exceptions. That's my core issue. I've said it prior to the election. We can't allow people to come into the country or the city committing violent acts, and those numbers who are doing it, we need to address that. And I'm happy to have a partner in Tom to see how do we address that in a real way.
So are gang tattoos that are TDA enough to get someone removed in that first group?
No, it's not. No, it's not. And because we got to also ensure that we're not violating the laws of our land. And the mere fact someone is wearing a gang tattoo, which is an identifiable marker of this gang, is not enough to say, okay, you have a gang tattoo, now you must be removed. But what we should be doing at our border, we could be making that determination. Are we going to allow you to come in? We're allowing people to come in. Think about this for a moment. We're allowing people to come in without a sponsor, without any employment, and we're telling them, you can't work. So what are they going to do? We're creating a pipeline of criminality by creating these terrible criteria.
Are you going to find a way through executive orders to allow ICE to function in this city to carry out deportations?
We're going to allow them to, the areas where we can allow them to do. Right now, I could allow ICE to come on into Rikers Island, anything but for deportation. But allowing them access to do criminal investigation is going to help us all. But we're going to sit down with our attorneys and see what executive orders I can do to give me more power to go after those who are creating illegal acts. Now, we're going to also, I want to be very clear, we're going to also tell those who are following the law, doing the right thing, here's the pathway to participate in the citizenship and utilize the services that the taxes you are paying for allow you to utilize.
The Untold Story continues right after this.
When you started to realize that 200,000 people was too many, you said this could destroy New York City. What was the reaction that you got at the White House when you asked for help?
When we saw the numbers coming in, we were getting at one time almost 8,000 a week, 16,000 every 2 weeks. I mean, we could just do the math, unsustainable. And at that time, the right to shelter, we were being sued by advocates that required us to give everyone a bed by a certain number of times. We were getting buses 2, 3 a.m. in the morning. And we reached out to the White House, 10 trips to Washington, D.C., asking them for help in securing the border and stopping this flow. I went down to El Paso and also went down to the Darien Gap, and I saw the flow and the threat that we were receiving. We didn't get the support. We got $200 million out of a $6.5 billion deficit. And so many people believe that, okay, Eric, it's in your rearview mirror. It happened already. You got 170,000 out. No, the damage that we are going to see long term from spending $6.5 billion. $200 million could have gone to those chronically absent children. We could have put hundreds of millions of dollars into the senior care, helping people with medical debt relief. So when you start to look at the long-term impact of the services we did not provide, it's going to start materializing in the years to come. That is the destruction that I was talking about.
So when you had that pushback from the White House, they stopped returning your phone calls?
Prior to this crisis, I asked the president to come to New York City when we were having a crime problem, the gun problem. He came here and met with our law enforcement. We had a continuous conversation with the White House on these important issues. When this issue happened and we asked for assistance over and over again, and I refused to remain silent while I was watching this city harm, we no longer received the support that we deserved. We no longer had an opportunity to communicate with the president. It was a clear statement from the White House that they didn't appear to be happy that I was standing up for the city. And other mayors should do that. Look at what happened in these other cities: Chicago, Denver, Los Angeles, Houston. Cities should not be taking away the resources from their residents to handle a national crisis.
Well, we see citizens feel like that. Did you vote for Joe Biden after all that?
Joe Biden, you said, did I vote for Joe Biden? I voted for him for the first time.
Did you vote for him in 2024?
This election, he was not on the ballot.
I'm sorry, Kamala Harris. Did you vote for Kamala Harris in 2024?
I cast my vote for Kamala Harris when I went into the polling place.
You seem to be saying that there's a connection between the indictments that you have received for bribery and conspiracy to solicit foreign donations and your pushback against this administration, the Biden-Harris administration. You said something about this the other day and held up a newspaper. Here's that moment.
I'm just a fighter. I believe in fighting for my rights. And this is the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life, of the onslaught of this. And I have to remain silent. But you cannot ignore the fact, because I know I read a little fast. President Biden and President-elect Donald Trump now agree on one thing. The Biden Justice Department has been politicized. Now, you know, if this is in the New York Times, it has to be true.
Do you believe that the Biden Justice Department came after you and many of the people that work for you because of your pushback on immigration?
I clearly believe when you looked at aspects of the indictment and you look at the timing of this and the manner, the leaks, there were just so many leaks. I'm a former law enforcement officer. When you conduct an investigation, you're not leaking out repeatedly of information that clearly only the Justice Department was aware of. Just the manner in which this was done is clearly suspect to me. And my attorney is handling this, and it takes a lot of discipline when you are, really watching some of this unfold and not wanting to and not responding the way you want to respond. Those who have known me and followed me know I believe in fighting for what I believe is right. And, the president said it. The president of the United States said his Justice Department is politicized. Donald Trump stated it. Eric Adams stated it. The parents who are on the FBI watch list for standing up for their children, they're saying it. There's something wrong, and we need to make sure that we don't use any tool of law enforcement in a way to politicize the process.
So this is very much ongoing. Just a couple days ago, one of your closest aides and chief advisors, Ingrid Lewis-Martin, resigned. Her attorney says that they expect that she will be indicted this week. Charges of improper gifts, most likely. They don't know exactly what the charges are going to be. She said she was innocent. Winnie Greco, who is believed to have had strong ties to the Chinese government, is also on that list, another close associate of yours. The FBI has taken their phones, has investigated their houses, searched their houses. Do you have concerns about what the FBI and this investigation may uncover?
No, and all of them have attorneys, and I don't want to do anything to jeopardize their cases. But I tell my team, and I do so, we follow the law. It's about following the law. I didn't spend 22 years as a police officer enforcing the law to break the law. We follow the law, and constituent services and ensuring that constituents are not caught up in a bottleneck of government should not be interpreted in any way as breaking the law.
Does that include foreign countries and consulate approvals?
Well, when you're here in New York as a consul general and ambassador, you are a constituent. You're part of the constituency of New York City, and we need to ensure that you're receiving your proper services as a constituent of New York City.
Are you concerned that any of these individuals are going to turn evidence against you, Mayor Adams?
The only way you could be concerned about that if there's evidence to turn against you. I did not break the law. I did nothing wrong. That is how I live my life, and that is how I'm going to continue to live my life.
So President Trump was asked if he would consider pardoning you the other day, and here's what he said.
Would you consider pardoning Eric Adams?
Yeah, I would. I think that he was treated pretty unfairly. Now, I haven't seen the gravity of it all, but it seems, like being upgraded in an airplane many years ago. I know probably everybody here has been upgraded.
So he said that he hadn't seen the gravity of it, and then he goes on to say what we just heard him say. Do you hope or have you asked for the president-elect to pardon you?
I did not ask him that, and in our conversations, we both expressed our love for the city, and the years he was in office, they were combated. I'm working with the president and his administration, not warring with him. I say that quote over and over again. And my attorney is an excellent attorney. He's going to handle every avenue to pursue justice. I should not have been charged. No American should go through what I'm going through right now. This country believes in fairness, and what I'm experiencing is not only a professional tragedy, it's a personal tragedy.
Just two last questions for you. A lot of what you say makes you sound more conservative. You were a Republican in the past. Do the things that we've talked about and your reflections on this election make you feel that maybe you want to go back to being a Republican?
I ran as a Democrat, and I think Democrats have different philosophies and ways of thinking. We're not monolithic in our thoughts, and I'm going to rerun as a Democrat. I ran as a senator as a Democrat, and about president as a Democrat. But I cannot say in my true blueness, I'm true blue collar. I believe in America. I believe what we stand for, our way of life. I'm fearful of the radicalizing of our children who no longer love this country the way we ought to. But I am an American, and I cannot be clear on that. And American people have stated we're tired of our public officials going back and forth arguing while we are in a state of despair. My attention will continue to be on working class Americans in general, but specifically here in New York, and taking away personal income taxes for those who are low wages, making sure we have child care, excusing medical debt. Those are the things I want to focus on, because my family was betrayed by the ignoring those services that we should be delivering, and I don't want to do that to another generation.
You talk about the important role of faith in your life. You've been facing a lot over the past year. How does that sustain you?
the power of prayer. I use the terminology GPS. You know, people use it for their vehicles. I use it for my life. I turn on my God positioning satellite every morning, and I drop to my knees and I give thanks to Him. And I know that we're going to meet challenges. And I say it all the time. I cannot tell you, you know, I have 6 siblings. And my mother loved all of them, but she just adored me. I was her favorite child. And I used to get up in the morning and I used to hear Mommy in her bedroom crying, not knowing if she was going to be able to feed us and keep a roof on her head. But 8 a.m. in the morning, she got up.
And she bought a home for your family, right. Working hard as a person cleaning houses. All this that's happened, you want to be mayor for another term, Mayor Adams? And can you beat Andrew Cuomo, the former governor, if he comes back and runs against you in the Democrat primary in June?
They asked me the same thing when Andrew Yang got in the race and he was beating me by 12 points. They don't call Andrew Yang mayor. They call me mayor. I believe. My faith is strong.
You can beat Andrew Cuomo in the primary.
I'm going to beat whoever's in the race to continue to move this city forward.
Mayor Adams, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good to speak with you today. Thanks for making the time.
Thank you.
That is The Untold Story. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time. I'm Martha McCallum. You've been listening to The Untold Story with Martha McCallum. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. Make sure to rate and review. For more podcasts, go to foxnewspodcast.com. Listen ad-free with the Fox News Podcast Plus subscription on Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Prime members can listen to this show ad-free on the Amazon Music app.